Hey fellas, this is Joe from San Diego, leaving a message for the Grit. I keep hearing Chaz talk about Ashton overreacting and letting things get to him and having tough skin, but didn't this all start when Ashton basically called Chaz a Nepo husband and Chaz just simply couldn't handle it? You got to own it on your side too, man. And then finally, regarding the barrel or nah on kissing your kids. What would you think if John Florence's mother kissed him after winning the world championship? Or perhaps Dino Andino giving a little peck to Chloe? Just worth a thought. Keep up the work.
I'll let you field this one.
Beautiful. Exactly right. I will own my Nepo husband, being called a Nepo husband by Ashton Goggins, and my reaction to it. But
overreaction
to it. I don't know that it was an overreaction. I'm going to say Ashton was in the wrong. Ashton deserved a sock in the mouth right there, which I should have delivered. I just lightly shoved him around. But what he said was both not true and rude. And I should have socked him, and then would have laughed about it later. And I did laugh about it later. So I'm going to say I was right.
I see that. Even if he was right, you're saying it was not true. Even if it was true, it's not an insult. Like, that's where the miscommunication in hindsight is if your wife earns more than you, that's fully acceptable. That's totally okay. It's not offensive in any way, but him weaponizing that as an insult to you, like, your wife earns more than you, ha ha, pointing the finger at you, is actually very sexist.
Totally. I mean, Ashton is an asshole. We'll just put that out there, and he can laugh about it if he wants, if he so chooses. But if he chooses not to, then that's okay. Ashton's got to live with Ashton. Ashton has to wake up each and every day living with the heavy burden of being Ashton Goggins. Imagine that. About being best friends to all surfers. He has to be a very knowledgeable man every day about the art of wave sliding, etc., etc. Tough to be Ashton.
What about the idea of Alex Florence kissing John on the mouth after a Pipe Masters win, or even better, Dino Andino kissing Chloe?
So this makes me take back all of my criticism of kissing your child on the mouth. I mean, I think kissing your baby on the mouth is weird. I think once your baby turns to be how old's Chloe? Is he 30 something?
Yeah.
30 something, married, surfer. If Dino planted a big one on Chloe's mouth, it would be so epic. It would be absolutely peak surfing.
We are flip-flopping big time, because I was all for kissing your kid on the mouth last time we recorded. Now I'm anti when it's in these terms. And yes, it's problematic if you are parent-child. I think it's more of an age disparity that's the problem here, which is, even if you're married, I don't want to see a 30-year-old husband kissing the 30-year younger wife, or older wife, younger husband. There's a certain age differentiation that just makes an old person kissing a young person weird, regardless of whether you're a parent.
I hear you, except for, picture with me in your mind Chloe Andino winning his very first CT event ever, right? It's been a long career. It's been a long run. How many years has been on the CT? 10?
Yeah, 100 events. And
100 events.
He has a perfect record.
He is 0 for 100. He has won the Coldwater Classic, which was not a CT event. He's won some events, none of which have been CT events. So finally,
he's won junior titles, US, like all of it,
sure,
except a CT event.
All this pent up desire and frustration and all of it coming out in a giant mouth kiss between Dino and Chloe. Dino grabbing Chloe on the ears and just pulling him in for the kiss would be peak surfing.
So who's instigating the kiss? Is Dino the one with all the pent up expectation, or is Chloe?
I mean, I would imagine they both have an equal amount of pent up, like, unrealized just frustration. Imagine like what you could do with that energy. I bet you could hook both Chloe and Dino up. I love saying Chloe and Dino is one of my, when we don't get to do that anymore, It's going to
That's
be
a
real
great
sad.
one. I never even
Yeah.
thought about that.
Really?
Chloe
Chloe
and
and Dino. Yeah,
Chloe and Dino.
Dino. If you hooked Chloe and Dino up, we go. There's the mothball nuclear facility down by San Clemente.
Mm-hmm.
Dino and Chloe live close there. You could take them inside and hook them up and power Southern California off of their pent-up desire for a couple weeks, I bet. Imagine that.
So he'd have to win, considering the proximity, he'd have to win lower trestles, and immediately after that win, get hooked up to the generator at the power plant. But him and Dino have to be separated. No, they have to be separated because it's the pent-up energy. So they have to be separated physically, but staring into one another's eyes. And the energy that is transferred there runs Southern California. I'm going to say for 8 hours.
I mean, at least 8 hours.
At least,
like, there's no way. I mean, Kolohe, you look at him, right? He plays from time to time happy-go-lucky, right? Like that he, whatever. He tries, he's, working it out, saying the right things. I'm training, I'm trying, I'm blah, 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 blah. Kolohe is a competitor, right? He is a sportsman on the same scale as like Brett Simpson, for example, except with more talent, right? Kolohe, like Brett Simpson, I feel, is a sporting surfer. Dad was a football player, looks at surf as sport, right?
Yeah.
Kolohe, I feel, is in the same vein as that, except is twice as talented probably as Brett, right? We're nothing against Brett. Brett's a phenomenal surfer, but I think he would also agree that Kolohe is vastly more talented than him. But also a sportsman, sporting, wants to win, right? This is a competition. Yep. And so, I mean, and
life
all of it
is incomplete without these wins.
And he has a, beautiful family now. Kolohe does, as a father. He's like, of course, learning to find joy in the other avenues of life. But I have to think there is a trophy-sized hole in that boy's heart.
Totally. Well, it'd be an interesting stat to find out. We're going to have to employ one of our listeners to do this work. Whose record is better, Dino Andino or Chloe Andino?
I mean, it would be tough to say, I suppose, because when Dino was on tour, it was pre-Dream Tour. And so I can't remember like what were considered championship level events back then, right?
Well, but the only question is, did Dino win an event?
Right? Didn't he?
I have no idea. I know he won. I think he also won like a U.S. Title, like a nationals title, but I don't know if he won once he was on the ASP, on the CT.
We need listeners to weigh in here. I'm not about to go to my computer ever and do.
I did. In preparation for the show, I Googled Dino Andino's wins or something like that, and all the articles were pointing towards Chloe Andino. They might be, and they would have Dino Andino's name in the article, but they were all about Chloe. So I went to Warshaw's Encyclopedia of Surfing because he's built out a contest side of the website, but it was only up until 1990. And Dino came on like in 92 or something like that.
Wow, the big mystery of Dino Andino.
I know.
But this is going to be fun for a listener.
I know. Yeah, I'm sure that there is a listener who just knows right off the top of their head.
Yeah, of course. Dino won X, Y, and Z on the CT.
Yeah, exactly. Well, another Chloe and Dino news. He's off Oakley.
Ooh, since when?
Long time. Well, so this was reported on Stab. I guess Sam McIntosh was in Hawaii collecting footage for How Surfers Get Paid season 2. And Kolohe had mentioned it, that he's no longer on Oakley. He had been on them, obviously, forever, since he was a kid, as long as I can remember. Yeah. And what was funny about this little story was that he went out and purchased a pair of Ray-Bans. Like, oh, I'm no longer tied to Oakley. I always wanted Ray-Bans. So he goes and buys Ray-Bans, only to find out later that they're both owned by the same company.
Luxottica. They sure are. Amazing. Poor Kolohe. Oh.
Can't getting robbed left and right. Man. But I mean, so that's got to be $200K a year, right? That's like no longer in his pocket.
I mean, I'm sure it was diminishing and has diminished over these
Okay.
years. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure it was definitely something.
Yeah, something for
It's
sure.
it's funny because I think of Kolohe and Oakley, right? But I cannot picture Kolohe in a pair of Oakleys. Like I can picture Griffin Colapinto wearing
The blades.
somewhat ironically blades.
Yeah.
And but I can't, and I really honestly can't picture Kolohe in sunnies. It's funny, the surfers, like, I love sunglasses, right? Sunglasses fulfill a major, need and fashion thing in my life. Outside, surfing, beach. I don't like squinting, all these things. The surfers, I'm honest, like Kelly Slater notoriously doesn't wear sunglasses.
It's crazy.
Like, doesn't like sunglasses, doesn't wear them. I don't understand how you can be anywhere beach adjacent and not have a sunglass program.
It really is bizarre.
But Kolohe in the same way, I can't picture him wearing sunglasses.
I know. I'm thinking of a few ad campaigns that I've seen him in where he had sunglasses, but they look like a forced fit.
Yeah, like,
which maybe because he's been wanting to wear Ray-Bans all along. You know what I mean?
It's so weird, poor Kolohe, though. If you had freedom, if he, finally the shackles of Oakley are off, and he goes for a full-on price point, like average, like, why didn't he go to like, again? And so maybe Kolohe doesn't have much pent up frustration with stuff, like, because if your pent up frustration is, finally I'm done with Oakley, I'm gonna let it all out on a pair of $120 Ray-Bans. Like, well, why did you go, like, good pair of $500 Tom Fords, or get some like crazy Versace or something like that, right? Something that was just obscene, like, just to really, if you want to stick the knife in Oakley, really show that, hey man, look, I'm in a fashion class now.
Maybe he had like a Macy's gift card.
Yeah.
From Christmas, and he was just waiting until the contract expired.
Just burning a hole.
Yeah. Well, hey, welcome back. We missed last week. I suppose I owe listeners an apology.
What did you get listener feedback on frustration on the dead air?
A little, not frustration. People did DM and like, where's the episode? I keep refreshing my feed. So I apologize. In I don't know, years past, when we've missed a week, I try to at least publish a little 2-minute explanation, like, hey, we're out of town, Chaz's out of town, whatever it is. This week I didn't even get a chance to do that. I was in Mexico and had all of the intention to actually record, and even Chaz was waiting. He was like, Thursday rolled around, I'm like, can we push to Friday? Friday rolled around, I'm like, I think we got to call it off. And really the problem is now I've gotten so professional that the show prep requires more time than the show itself. And so if I just needed to carve out an hour to record with you, no problem.
No problem.
But it's like, can I record, or can I carve out 2 hours prior to that to actually listen through the listener line calls and like prep all my notes that I've kind of typed in on my phone from the last week? And the answer was no. Couldn't get that 3 hours.
Nope. Vacation took precedent. To be honest, though, should have been able to do it on Friday, but I was so glad when you said no, because I got screwed on my flight, and so was, I think, in transit when we were supposed to be anyway. Yeah.
So you were going to Canada?
Was going to Revelstoke, Canada.
Where's that?
Revelstoke. It's interior BC, interior British Columbia. It's like, I think, if you know your Canada, about a 5-hour drive west of Calgary, or a 6-ish hour drive northeast from Vancouver.
Smack dab in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, really in the middle. Like, it's not easy to get to Revelstoke, which is what makes Revelstoke so epic. Revelstoke is absolutely epic.
It's a great name.
It's the best name. I've always thought it was a phenomenal name and thought it was on purpose. Like, I didn't know the town was actually named Revelstoke, and it's probably clearly a Native American or indigenous word, whatever. But yeah, Revelstoke.
Do you think it is? I feel like that's a modern name that they just picked of their own volition.
I'm gonna look into it now, but I'm almost guaranteed that it is indigenous, because all the towns leading up to there are.
Oh, okay.
Or most of them.
That'd be a coincidence then.
Yeah.
What were you doing there?
It was natural selection, the Travis Rice snowboarding event. Did you catch any of it?
No, but I heard that it put the WSL to shame, made a mockery of.
It made a mockery of the World Surf League. Here you go, David Lee. How much snowboarding have you watched in your life?
Very little.
Okay, so this event, it's exactly what you preach the World Surf League should do. They figured it out, right?
Yeah.
And of course, with the elements and whatnot, there's, surfing with snowboarding all the same, like they're element dependent. And so you got to kind of get lucky too. You can have a great format, you can have a, great concept, but if the elements don't deliver, you're going to be, a bit stuck and or all the way stuck no matter what, right?
Right.
But let me explain to you natural selection, David Lee Scales. Okay, so it's in Revelstoke, right? It's moved around. This was live. It was 12 men, 4 women. That sounds nice, yeah. Starts in the quarters. They did what they called duels to lead up. So that was like your first whatever elimination. So this is all runs in one day, 4 hours ish, and starts in the quarters, right? It's everybody gets 2 runs. They're in brackets, and so knockout, 2-run semi, knockout, 2-run final, knockout. Women go same course as men, so they did the men quarters, women's semis, I guess, men's semis, women's finals, men's finals, all done. And the thing about this was, again, back to what you say, it is put men and women versus nature, and it was insane. It was terrifying, to be honest. Like, everyone was terrified. It was
because the course is so scary,
so gnarly that it was like, yeah, I mean, not so night before, right? I'm the press, of course. So at the press function, they have all the press and all the athletes at a bar night before, right? And when was the last time you got an invitation from the World Surf League to come to hey, come mingle with all the surfers over drinks?
Never.
Like, the World Surf League would never do that for a trillion reasons. One of which is, I think, they despise the press. 2 of which is they would never trust their surfers, I don't think, to be with booze and the press and speak the company line.
Yeah.
But this natural selection, like, it's, man, you could say whatever you want. And okay, so night before though, the presses were drinking, but no snowboarder was. They were abjectly terrified. Like, these are the best snowboarders in the entire world, and they had all been, so with natural selection, you're not allowed to ride the course, right? Like, nobody had ever ridden this course. Nobody had ever ridden this course. Travis had never ridden it. Nobody had ever, I think maybe in history, had ever ridden this line or the area they had cordon or like blocked off for it. And so they get they fly drones through there, right? So the snowboarders all get their drone footage and they get maps and they can review that kind of stuff. But the playing field was massive, where it starts off like this kind of powder fun run into a cliff, like into trees and a cliff. And you got to figure out where to attack this cliff into. I mean, it was just insane. It was absolutely insane. And yeah, so the snowboarders themselves were like, had been studying the drones and stuff. We're at this event, and talking and great, but you could just see, and all of them were just like, yeah, I'm basically scared. This is, one of them, Jared Elston, dad's a pro surfer, or was a pro surfer, awesome kid from Bend. He told me, Travis is the only one here who has ever ridden anything, or maybe it was one of them, Mickelbang maybe told me this. Travis is the only one here who's ever ridden anything even remotely like this. And so we are getting thrown, best snowboarders in the world, just thrown into the deep end. And yeah, so morning of the event, it was perfect conditions, right? Like, sunny, and the snow was epic, deep powder and all that. And the announcers, even out of the gate, just let the whole thing breathe, where Travis dropped in first and threw down a pretty epic line, and then next guy drops in, gets lost, gets hung up on the side of a cliff, Ben Ferguson, and the announcers are sitting there thinking, just like Mary Walsh, one of them, was epic, and they just let it breathe, right? He comes up to the cliff and she just gasps, and they all sit there and it's quiet, because this is not just funny. This guy could honestly plunge to his death. He has to figure out, fully lost, took his line wrong, has to figure out a way off this cliff. And it was the entire day was that of just, but as they got more comfortable, it was just epic performances. And like yeah, everybody should go watch the first 20 minutes and you'll be hooked.
So did he have to climb back up and pick a different line?
No, they just figure like they're the best snowboarders in the world, right? And
but
so
that guy who was stuck on the cliff.
Yeah, he just jumped off the cliff. Like he figured out a way down, right? They all did. It was, little Jared Elston was cruising his line, got like way off, and was honestly like the way that, like, so it's sucked in, the cameras are sucked in on him, right? And he's like, looks like it's this pillow line that he's taking down. Camera pulls back. You realize that backside, he's on a sheer cliff and he's just like dancing down this thing, right? Like everyone through, running into, chutes that you don't see them anymore. And you think, oh, this guy's just straight up dead. Like this guy's dead. And they come out and the announcers, are treating it with the gravitas that it actually was. This wasn't funny. It was like serious every time.
It would be, so the only equivalent that I could think of for the surf world would be if there was some mutant slab in Western Australia or the North Atlantic or something that nobody's ever surfed before. And we find it, we send the surfers there for the epic swell. Nobody knows lineup markers, nobody surfed it before. You just put them out there.
Yeah, and you record them for 4 hours, and and they will. You throw the best surfers in the world somewhere like that. Of course, the first couple runs will be, they'll be finding their way. Yeah. You'll also have the guy like Idolo, first surf ever at the box where he just sends it. You'll have that mixed in there, but it's fun to watch. And this is what natural selection just doesn't get in the way like the World Surf League does, right? They don't need to make it any more complicated than what you're always preaching, man and woman versus nature. Like throw them in somewhere epic and watch what they do, because they figure out a way, right? The entertainment is them battling this thing, is them battling this course, and then watching
the best in the world, not the best, top 42 in the world.
No, the best in the world, the best backcountry snowboarders in the world, thrown somewhere that's above their level that they've never done. But nothing is really above their level, right? This is what this proved. But heading into it, not everyone was scared. Cersei woke up the morning of and was like shaking her head, like, why did Travis have to pick this course? Like, this is what he always does. He always throws. He could have picked anywhere, and like the course, of course, wasn't in bounds at Revelstoke. They were it was right outside of the resort, but they were hellying up there and stuff. And there was a couple that he could have picked. He picked the hardest, craziest area that he could and threw them all in there.
And who won?
Travis won. Travis won. Travis is truly even at 40, whatever he is now, best in the world still. There was nice. That's the thing too. The judges, there was controversy in the mid. There's the local boy, Dustin Craven. How good is that name? Dustin Craven. Kid from Revelstoke or guy from Revelstoke. He should have beat Travis, I think, in the semis.
You're good.
You can still, it's all good. Okay.
Yeah.
He should have beat Travis in the semis, and Travis, I think, knew it. Travis got done with that run and like threw his GoPro and you could just tell how pissed he was at himself. But the judges gave it to judges gave it to Travis. And then I think Travis, out of sheer, not embarrassment, but just like knowing, went down and threw like probably the best snowboarding runs that ever happened in history in the finals, where it just like absolutely blew up. So it's one of those things where, okay, yeah, maybe Travis lost that thing, but Travis is undeniably the best snowboarder of the day.
So there's a disadvantage though to going first in that format.
Completely. And Travis picked to go first, right? Like, so Travis basically was like, I know that everybody here is going to be scared about this. I'm going to go show everyone that this is possible.
Amazing. Well, for full disclosure for listeners who maybe haven't listened to episodes in the catalog from over the years, your wife is agent for Travis Rice, and then also producer on Natural Selection. Yeah, longtime agent. She co-created Natural Selection with Travis, I think, or way back in the day, or whoever else was involved. This is like this iteration of Natural Selection now is many years on. But it's just, I wish so bad, like
there was something in surfing like it, everyone was hyped, right? Like the athletes, when the day was done, it's just like everyone is elated. The viewers are like, you know, minds blown. It was just this perfect day. And it really did make a mockery of everything surfing is about. And I love that while this was happening, while this, you know, crystallized a moment of the very, very, very best of what we love was happening, World Surf League CEO Eric Logan and Jesse Miley Dyer were praising themselves like they do on Instagram for going to South by Southwest to talk about surfing's swell business of whatever, the business of surfing, which was, I mean, it was the juxtaposition between natural selection happening, everything we love, and those two clowns going to Austin, Texas,
the middle of America,
the middle of America, to pat themselves on the back for something that's bullshit. Like, what business of surfing? You guys are still in the red. You have not made money yet. It is a great. Once you guys make $1 billion, $1 million, $50,000, go pat yourself. A
profit, period.
Go pat yourself on the back at South by Southwest. I still don't fucking care, because surfing is not about making money anyway. And pro surfing, like, the event shouldn't be about the business of surfing making money. You guys, like, it really put it. I've been on the fence. I've been playing around with Eric Logan and Jesse Miley Dyer for years now. But I realized this past weekend up in Canada that they are idiots, and they are actively wrecking pro surfing, and it ain't funny anymore.
No, so all bets are off. Gloves are off.
Gloves are off. Yeah, like I'm tired of them being such assholes, being such dumb shits, right? To perpetually, like, it's all about, you know, it's all about everything but the surfing. They could have done, it's about International Women's Day and which name you're putting on your jersey. It's about going to South by Southwest to talk about how awesome they are. It's about making TV shows and this, that, the other thing. It's everything but
putting the best surfers in the best waves.
Which is, again, and you say this all the time, and I don't even want to repeat it because it gets tiresome. And I know it's tiresome to our listeners, but are you kidding me? We are left with junk. We have junk. We have an absolute clown show of a sport. It's embarrassing. They're embarrassing. They should be embarrassed. I mean, Eric Logan and Jesse Miley Dyer should both wake up every morning embarrassed by themselves and what they're doing and what they've done. And I just wish there was some kind of somebody with deep pockets who said, enough. I like surfing. I'm going to take the 12 best surfers in the world, you know, 6 girls, doesn't even matter. I'm going to take a normal amount, and we're going to do a couple strike missions a year. And this is just going to be new surfing. We're going to build it up here.
Yeah. Well, the reason why Jesse Miley Dyer and Eric Logan don't have remorse or anything that we're talking about is I don't think they care about surfing. I think they're in it for themselves. They're in it, and they're recognizing, like, the guy who's paying the checks, Dirk Siff, this is more of a virtue signal. We want to look good. We want to be performative. So we look good at the cocktail parties. We own surfing, and we're making important kind of changes in the space, let's say, by being all inclusive, not actually implementing any of those things in a real meaningful way. So I think Eric Logan and Jesse both, that's the band. That's what the cart that they're riding, and that's what they are. And they're doing it out of their own self-interest, in that they're going to use this kind of job experience on the resume to then go get a better job down the road. So they don't care what happens to surfing otherwise. Otherwise, there's no reason they would make the decisions they're making. You know what I mean?
No, I mean, it's yeah, the going to talk in the middle of America about the money you're making as the good business decisions that you've made is so backwards as to be I mean, it's insulting.
Or you wouldn't advertise it. You might do something like that, and if they're going to pay you to be a keynote speaker,
great,
you do it. You wouldn't advertise it. You know what I mean?
But yeah, them both really patting themselves on the back, and then dragging poor Jadson Andre into it. What did he do to deserve this?
I was saving that as the punchline, by the way.
Sorry.
The one surfer they could convince to go to Texas in between stops was Jadson.
I mean, and Jadson is such a good guy, right? Like, this is testament to his good guyness. I think Jadson, from all appearances, is just a good guy, trying his hardest all the time, wants to be a pro surfer. And so these two clowns, Jesse Miley and Elo, clowns. I mean, they're proper clowns. It is like the clown car of all clown cars, those two.
Except there's only two of them in the car. The definition of the clown car is that they're just never ends.
The beauty of that clown car, though, is that's all you need. They are so clowny that you can have all the other clowns, just those two get out. And the audience at the circus just cackles for days. That is funnier than any clown car stuffed filled with clowns. Anyway, though, poor Jadson's in the back seat of that thing.
Also not getting paid.
Yeah.
Also in the red. So natural selection, is it supported by Red Bull?
No, I mean,
it's not. Okay.
Yeah, no. They Red Bull is one of the sponsors. There's no, one thing that pays for it.
Got it.
There's it's Yeti, it's Red Bull, it's this, that, and the other thing.
Got it.
Investors, blah, blah, blah.
Well, because I was trying to figure out how this will actualize in the surf world eventually, especially off the success. Like somebody will replicate it, but there would need to be, somebody with a financial incentive. And I would think Red Bull would be that company based on the success of the individual events that they've done at different slabs around the world.
I mean, I think
Cape Fear and stuff like that.
Yeah. The thing is with the slabby kind of surfing, I mean, this is the one-to-one to surfing is a bit difficult in terms of that, because I don't necessarily I like watching Cape Fear and stuff, but natural selection is still snowboarding, right? When I see people surf slabs, to me, that's not any kind of surfing I want to do, or I'm interested in watching it as a freak sideshow thing, but natural selection is still surfing, right? So I would like to see the natural selection surf thing be at Butte. I would love a slab in there, but also I would love 12-foot cloud break.
Yeah, and cloud break would be the perfect location for this.
Yeah, somewhere that's both gnarly and a technical wave, but also is, when you watch somebody surf there, it's not that I could ever surf 12-foot cloud break, but somehow it's still relatable. Just like I can never surf or snowboard that line they were doing at Revelstoke. I mean, that's the crazy thing. If you would have thrown, because those guys all get down the mountain, if you would have thrown a really good snowboarder, not, even if you would have thrown Sean White on that course, he would have honestly died. They would have had to ski in. There was no even way to get guys off the mountain, right? They had ski patrol, but they would have had to ski in and pack Sean White up and pack him out.
Crazy.
Yeah, but
that is insane.
But I can still watch it, and you could still think, oh, I know what that is, right?
Yeah. But from everybody I know who surfed actual pumping cloud break, they all attest to the fact that it's way more complex. It is absolutely as gnarly and square as as almost any wave on the planet, but also just so technically difficult to surf. It looks like a perfect wave, but it's the pacing of it. You just really need to be on your A game or need to be a top level athlete surfing.
And that was the beauty too about natural selection. They had in the commentary booth, they had intelligent snowboarders who not only could historically, had it all, would disagree with the judges, but would also explain why what we were seeing was interesting or unique or all the stuff without going over the top, right? Without saying, this is deadly and these,
right.
Blah, 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 and there was no kind of Joe Turpel drone. Imagine if you had, a great surf commentator explaining how cloud break works, the different sections, why this is the way it is, et cetera, et cetera. Then not only are you learning something, you're entertained by something, and you can appreciate that thing far more.
It would be John Roseman.
Yeah, totally. I mean, John Roseman in the booth, really breaking it down. And when action is that phenomenal, you don't need somebody there trying to pump it up, right? No. Which is the perpetual World Surf League trap of you don't need word salad. You don't need
hyperbole.
Yeah.
because it's as extreme as it gets. You almost need to like
Tone it down.
you need a grounding source. When nature is that crazy, you need the grounding source just to explain and parse it, you know?
Completely.
Well, kind of moving on from natural selection and talking about Red Bull, Julian Wilson is off Red Bull after a long stint. Matthias Hurdy after a short stint, but you would think he would still be on. And they're being replaced by Griffin Colapinto and Jack Robinson.
Jack and Griff. What do you think about that?
It makes perfect sense. Like, I mean, Matthias, it's surprising they would ditch Matthias because he seems to be on the ascent, but it makes perfect sense that they would ditch Julian. You know what I mean? Like, first of all, Julian needs to be so grateful that he got that, again, $250,000 for 15 years. Yeah. I mean, like,
maybe longer.
Yeah, totally. And at this point, what would they be paying him for? You know, like he's sitting at home with a family, not sitting, but like enjoying his time at home. He's advertising mid-length surfboards for JS at this point. Those are the clips that he's posting on Instagram. That's not Red Bull's brand anymore. Like they're young and vibrant and intense, you know?
Well, and I think Red Bull specifically is like, or tries to have a winning brand, right? In terms of we want the athletes who, and not just in surf, skate, snow, etc., but you know, across from like whichever soccer players or race car drivers or all of it, right? They want, Red Bull wants to be on the podium.
Totally. That's what it comes down to ultimately. And it's kind of shocking that they would pay Julian for 15 years or more, considering that, you know what I mean? Like put your money on somebody for 2 and 3 years. And then once they're kind of off that like total top of their game, give it to the next person. That would make more sense.
I think with a Red Bull, it feels like in order to get that next person, though, you have to have some kind of tail on your thing, right? Like,
I suppose, yeah.
What, you know, we're going to be your family and we are here and for you, you know, for your highs, but then we'll also help you ride out.
Yeah, which I would prefer if brands were there for a life, you know, for the life of an athlete and supported them throughout injury and all that sort of stuff. But that just doesn't seem. Red Bull seems to be a little bit more, I don't know.
Well,
not
Julian
as long term as Volcom might be for Dusty Payne or something like that.
Yeah, Julian doesn't feel like a Red Bull athlete anymore. Full stop. So.
Full stop. Yeah. One listener line call to catch up from 2 weeks ago, our last show.
Hey, this is for the Grit. This is Mike from Oregon, calling about wearing a company's gear, you know, Ford Marine X or whatever, when you don't do it, when you do. The rule is pretty easy. If that company is large enough to support themselves without little t-shirt sales, you don't wear that stuff. Otherwise, you're just like an accidental billboard for a big boy company. Kind of like when you see a band in some small dive bar, you wear that t-shirt all day long, and the second they play a larger venue, the only thing you do is listen to the album or, you know, wear the fancy shirts or the super expensive rain jacket or whatever. They're not your buddies and they don't need your help. So that's when you cross from customer supporter to full on fanboy. I'm open to different opinions, so let me know, but this is a good rule and I'm right.
This is a good rule. I'm right.
Yeah.
I think that totally jives.
I completely agree. I just think that the sort of trouble or the one like the gray area is for, again, like your XLs, right? Where they're not playing the dive bar anymore. They're not playing the stadium. They're playing, you know, your ones like, you know, XL, Rourke, who else? Throw me some other like mid levels.
Well, they do. I mean, Vissla,
Dark Star, yeah, like, or Dark
Seas. Yeah, Dark Seas. That's what it is.
Yeah, like there are these ones. I think that again, they're not divey, they're not arena. Yeah. So that's where the discussion, I think, and I would argue that all of those, if you're not in the arena, then it's okay to wear the gear.
Yeah, well, that's still, his rule still applies. His rule is if they need your sales, if purchasing the t-shirt from them is what's keeping them in business,
purchase the t-shirt.
Then you purchase the t-shirt. Exactly. I think all of those exist on that model still.
Yep, smart color.
It's
Thank
super
you.
simple, simple rule to run. Whereas if we're not purchasing Hurley's t-shirts, they still exist.
Oh, Hurley's fine. Vans is fine.
Yeah.
But okay, what about the Billabong Quicksilver, now owned by Shaquille O'Neal and David Beckham?
I know. I had to read that headline 3 times before I really understood what was happening. Because it was the way it was worded stated that David Beckham and Shaquille O'Neal
Buying Quicksilver.
are buying it. Yeah.
Yeah, Billabong.
But yeah, so no, those brands certainly do not need us to buy their t-shirts at this point.
Nope.
But the point is, a million other millions and millions and millions of other people are going to buy those t-shirts who have nothing to do with surfing, and those brands will continue to exist. So yes, they survive on t-shirt sales, but they don't need you and I to buy the t-shirts is the point. Whereas XL, the brands that you named, are only known to surfers. They need surfers to buy them.
Yes.
Yeah. That's
problem. Well done.
All right. I appreciate the simplicity of that. Thank you, caller. One blood feud that you did not take the bait on, maybe just because you were busy hobnobbing with snowboarders, but blood feud between 2 iconic filmmakers, Mark Oblowitz versus Taylor Steele.
I missed this. Where was this?
I DM'd it to you. I DM'd it. Mark,
is it still fresh?
It's still on. I checked this morning to see if he deleted it, and it's a main post. It wasn't a disappearing story.
Right.
So Mark Oblowitz posted an image, a repost from Taylor Steele's stories.
Do you mean Michael Oblowitz?
Michael. Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Thank you. As soon as I said it, like something in my brain clicked, but I didn't stop on it. So thank you for catching it. Michael Oblowitz posted image that was pilfered off of Taylor Steele's Instagram. That was the DVD of Sea of Darkness that says not for resale. It was specifically for a film festival, I think it said on it. And he said, the caption read, "For 14 years, I've been wondering who illegally stole a copy of my film that I have been blocked from releasing and from which I have never earned a cent. And today I saw this post." Again, it was Taylor Steele's post. So Taylor Steele posted the DVD and said, look what I just found. I was going through some old boxes or something. Look what I just found. And Michael is like, that's who has it.
Epic. That's a good blood feud.
It's a blood feud. Shots fired. And Michael not only calling Taylor out publicly, but tagging him in the post too. So ensuring that Taylor sees it. So I figured I saw it. I sent it to you immediately. I screenshotted it. And then I was like, guaranteed Taylor DMs Michael and is like,
goes down.
Hey, by the way, I didn't steal this. I was involved with this film festival. I've never shared it with anybody. Like I didn't do anything wrong, you know? And then Michael would probably delete the post or something like that. It's still up.
Did you screenshot it?
Yeah, I've got it. It's still on Michael's post too. But yeah, I also screenshotted it.
Okay.
The funny thing is, everybody in the comments section is like, man, I love that film. I've got it on my hard drive.
Yeah.
or I went on a surf trip. My buddy had it on a USB and we all watched it. And then he transferred it to my hard drive. Love the film. Great film.
I mean, it's on YouTube, I think, or it was. It has been on. Yeah, the whole thing has been on and off YouTube for years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, like obviously Michael didn't put it up, but and isn't profiting off that. But yeah, the story of the Sea of Darkness is I mentioned it. Man, like, look at this. I watched Sea of Darkness on Michael Oblowitz's bed. Me and Taylor Paul, now at Stab Magazine, on Michael Oblowitz's bed on the North Shore when I was writing Welcome to Paradise.
Really?
So that is like a solid decade ago. But yeah,
he said 14 years ago it was stolen. So
yeah,
probably right around then.
14, 15 years ago when I saw it for the first time.
Yeah, interesting. Do you want to give a little? I know we've talked about it. It comes up every couple of years here on the podcast, but do you want to give a little backstory on what that film is?
Yeah, so Sea of Darkness is basically the story of kind of ostensibly the founding of the surf industry a bit, but it tells the story, or both the surf industry and G-Land. So it tells of, Mike Boyum and the characters who went, who were living in Indonesia at the time, discovered G-Land, opened the camp, and then sort of it splits. Martin Daly and these guys go kind of good, I guess, as the story goes, and then others went Chitty, and these guys went to drug smuggling, basically. And so it tells this story and ends with the death of, was it Boyum who died?
I forget it.
Yeah, like basically unsolved deaths. And I mean, it's a fascinating story, completely well told by Oblowitz. Like, and yeah, it's taken on because of the difficulty it not getting released, right? I think there was who owns the story rights. There's all these issues with a bunch of stuff. I think Martin Daly actually owns the rights to it. And then, yeah, but I think there's enough, I don't know if there's I'm sure there's bad blood between various parties. The thing is just stuck in limbo.
Yeah, well, a lot of, I think the bad blood is related to pulling back the curtain on the criminal activity, right? Like drug running, and some of that money ostensibly being used to found some of these big brands that are now publicly traded. And so that is the question mark. And it seemed like people didn't want that story being shared. And maybe that story is not entirely true, but even being implicated would certainly jeopardize these publicly traded companies, right?
I mean, I guess it still is, but I don't think that's where the beef came from. I mean, it could have been a bit. I think it was mostly an issue between Martin Daly and Michael Oblowitz in terms of, I don't even know if it was in terms of how the story was told. I can't remember. I mean, I love Oblowitz a lot, and I've spent, plenty of time with Martin Daly. Very much love them both, and have had the story from both of them. And it's complex, right? It's just like, it's one of these projects that is now wound up in, and then the years that pass, I think the knot just gets tighter.
Yeah. And so somebody purchased, presumably you're saying Martin Daly purchased the rights to the film. Like it started doing the film, what's it called? Screening, not
circuit. Yeah.
The circuit.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think
the festival circuit. Started doing the festival circuit, and then somebody bought the rights to it and shelved it intentionally. Like, I'll pay the money for this thing not to be seen.
I think Martin Daly, he had the rights all the time.
Oh,
and
okay.
then so it was his thing, and he had partnered with Oblowitz to make it. Okay. But then something happened there. So it's always been Daly's, I think. It was never, I don't think Oblowitz ever owned the rights to it. It wasn't his. He was the director telling the story. But again, who knows contract stuff and blah, blah, blah. And, I don't know what the ins and outs actually were. All I know, though, is that it's a great movie. But the fact that it's still not released and still whispers about it, and, people have seen it, feel lucky and all that. It's a great part of our history, kind of, in terms of this phantom film.
I need to rewatch it. Just you talking about it, I'm like, oh yeah, that's what it's about. You know what I mean? Like I kind of forgot a lot of the details, so I'll need to rewatch it. Oblowitz is working on that Sonny Garcia documentary, and I've seen a trailer for it. And last I spoke to him, basically, there's no ending to the story yet. It's kind of like we're done with 99% of. I mean, we've shot it all, we've edited it. We just need kind of an ending to the story. And Sonny kind of being in the state that he's in isn't quite the ending. And so I think it's going to be a while until we see that as well.
Man, yeah. I mean, the interviews that he has in that thing, he's been working on that for decades, it feels like.
With Sonny, like getting confessional interviews with Sonny throughout it. With
Sonny, but he also has like interviews with Andy Irons and with, there's so many. Derek Ho, Marvin, whatever, like
Foster.
Yeah, there's so many now dead, like sort of icons, or that he has, hours of interviews with for this film. Like when this thing comes out, it's going to be something.
Well, another storyline that we had been kind of tracking over the course of the first two events of the CT season was Zeke Lau's 2 interferences. Looks like he's probably not going to requalify via the mid-season cut. But Stab Magazine did an interview with him, basically saying, or I guess the story was, Stab canceled his premium membership, and our system automatically asks why you're canceling. And he said, "You guys effing suck." And so And so they're like, shoot, maybe we should reach out to him. And they even said, like, look, we've been kind of unfair. We've only really covered your negative press. We haven't really covered any positive press about you. So let's give you the mic. Let's ask you some questions. You explain your side of everything. So that is on Stab Premium if people want to go and find it. I found it to be interesting because he directly addresses the controversies, including the paddling around John, and then including the new controversies lately. But as it relates to you and I, one DJ Seaweed, our resident DJ, took some time to compile every Zeke Lau infraction over the last probably 10 years and put him into a remix. It is 8 minutes long. You and I do not need to listen to all of it now. I'm just going to play you a sample, but I will put the entire 8 minutes at the end of today's episode for anybody who does want to sit around and recap Zeke's illustrious career.
See that? That was because John was angry. Zeke's been hassling John, getting in his face, but let's have a look at this one. Ezekiel Lau is winning that. He's winning that psych out. That's strategy. That's tactics. Well within the rules of surfing. And it all stems from the beginning of the heat, John not getting his own way, and Ezekiel pushing the issue. That's how you got to ruffle the feathers of the world champion.
Previous strategy was just to get a good start and put the pressure on him early and get that first exchange, just make sure I got the inside and just, let me set the pace. Yeah, let him feel the pressure a little bit. He's a champ, you can't give him any room. See what he can do under a little bit of pressure.
I didn't tell him to do that. I was coaching him at the time and I just said, put pressure on him. Tell him to paddle circles around him. Jesus. I think Kelly even made him just go, so we know how to ruffle John's feathers.
It was a paddle by Ezekiel Lau. The priority has shifted. Real Aida does have first priority right now, so there's a glimmer of hope. Wait a minute. Oh no, this is a situation. With Ezekiel Lau with third priority, he did not see the change of the priority, and we may have just seen a horrible interference at the end of the heat that is going to take out the heat leader if it is deemed an interference. This is
shock right here.
A shocking moment, Laura.
Well, this is going to be heartbreaking right here for Zeke. He was definitely in third priority there. Might not have known it. It's just sinking.
Anyways,
right
you get the point.
That's pretty great. DJ Seaweed does the work.
He really does. Going back and finding the Zeke footage and then finding Jake Patterson's footage talking about Zeke, and then he gets some podcasters talking about, like the guys on Lipped talking about the interference and what their take is. He incorporates that. So this is a full soup to nuts, all of Zeke's infractions, all in one 8 minute remix if you want it at the end of today's show.
Thank you, DJ Seaweed, for your service.
Seriously. The one interesting thing I'll tell you, or maybe it's not that interesting, about Zeke in that interview was just how of two minds he is about every interaction. It's like, this is a sport. I'm going to bring my A game and just treat it like a sport. But I want to be known as a good guy. When I really think about how I want to live my life, I really want to just kind of be a good person and for people to appreciate me. I'm an ambassador of Aloha for Hawaii, so I want to be nice. And it's like, you get the impression reading it where you're just like, dude, pick a lane, pick a lane like this. And not for my benefit. And not because I want to be a fan or anything, not because I hate you, none of that. For your own sake. Like, how are you ever going to execute a goal if you're 1 foot in, 1 foot out,
It's funny to me that he canceled his premium because Stab effing sucks, and then goes behind the paywall to give them an exclusive interview. Again, would be the two mind thing, right? I suppose. If you really think they suck, then go somewhere else and speak your mind. I would have happily talked to Zeke, and then you could really stick the needle in the eye by being on Beach Grit, right?
That's so funny.
Yeah, they suck. So you guys suck. So I'm going to give you an exclusive behind the paywall.
That's so funny. So he also posted yesterday on Instagram, Zeke did, that he's got a new sponsor. So Quicksilver's out, and it's some local Hawaiian clothing brand,
What's it called?
I don't know. I'll look it up right now. Something I had never heard of before, but the funny thing is, it's like their slogan is ambassadors of Aloha, and everybody who DM'd it to me is like, I don't think of Zeke as being an ambassador of Aloha. You know what I mean? Like, he's kind of the opposite of that. let's see, it is called Awa, AVVA, like Ava,
Good.
Ava brand.
Nice, like Ruvka.
Exactly. Ambassador owned and operated, 11.8 thousand followers, Hawaii clothing brand. And also, while we're talking about sponsors, Leonardo Fioravante is a new sponsor too.
Who does he got?
Some weatherproof jacket company called K-Way.
What?
I know, dude. I mean, it's non-endemic, I guess, so that's a thing.
I feel Leo's going for
K-Way.
Formula One board stuff, right? Gabriel's given up the Formula One board, and so now Leo Fioravanti from Italy is going to do his just have it so plastered with stickers.
Yeah, maybe. It looks like maybe it's a French brand. It's the Instagram description says K-Way, waterproof jacket par excellence.
Nice.
Classic modern technology, function, and colored.
Punching John Florence right in the mouth.
That's what the article is.
Ooh, I got two. I just got two. I got a blood feud and Leonardo Fioravanti punches John Florence in the teeth.
You're welcome. We have a new segment today.
I'm so excited.
Tools to live by.
Yes. Do we have a song?
We will. DJ Seaweed, get on that. Tools to live by. Please don't send us a Tools song. Tools to live by is brought to you by the ultimate tool that you can own. VeyerWatches.com. Promo code SURF15, SURF15 for 15% off any purchase at VeyerWatches.com. But the reason why Veyer is the ultimate tool is up until 2007, iPhones did not exist. And even still, the vast majority of the planet that you go to doesn't have service or reception for an iPhone. The battery will run out. If you're in the middle of somewhere, you don't have electricity, the battery is going to run out in very short order. But you know what will never fail you? Your
Veyer watch that's powered by the sun and or whatever else that powers a Veyer watch.
Well, they do have automatic, mechanical watches that just run in perpetuity if you wind them. But the solar watch is what I'm wearing right now. So there's a little solar dial or a solar cell under the dial that automatically captures sun whenever it's out and about. And that powers the watch. So you never need to charge it. Never need to wind it even.
Flying home from Canada yesterday, there was like a bunch of near misconnection. And I was looking at my Veyer watch, like sussing out how much time I had. I saw some dude sitting on the plane next to me who had an Apple Watch that was dead. Like,
no
and
way.
I was thinking, what do you do when you're like, why even wear it? Why wear an Apple Watch? It's like, I have my computer in my bag. And I have my phone in my pocket. Why do I need another thing that's going to potentially die on my wrist?
Because you need to track your steps.
Yeah.
Dude, literally last week, Lauren got a free Apple Watch from her company. We gave it to my mom.
Yeah.
She's like, do you want it? I'm like, heck no. She's like, I don't want it. I don't want to be getting notified all day with every voicemail, every email and text and all that sort of stuff.
It's honestly another thing to charge. It's another thing to charge when you go to bed. That's honestly all it is.
Totally. So Veyer watches, Veyer, by the way, is spelled V-A-E-R. So VeyerWatches.com. Again, use promo code SURF15 and you'll save 15% if you want to get the watch that we're talking about. And they have free USA shipping, easy returns, waterproof warranty. I wore mine in the ocean yesterday. Everything you need in a watch. But here's the deal. Here's the segment. Tools to live by. Okay. Almost like rules to live by. So listeners going to send in inquiries and we are going to offer them the tools to live by. Great. This one came in from a listener and he said, non-black wetsuits. This may be a little dated because even pros now are almost 100% in black wetsuits. But 5 to 10 years ago, you would see the best guy in the lineup in a white wetsuit. Think Kalohe Andino or Slater from way back when. But beyond just the white, there was bright red, green, blue. Even today, maybe Jamie O'Brien is wearing a bright blue camo suit, And at the risk of tooting my own horn, I'll even share a personal anecdote of when I owned and wore a maroon wetsuit about 10 years back. One day it dawned on me that when I was surfing, that it was kind of kooky. It was kind of a kooky move to wear such a flamboyant wetsuit. I turned to my friend Jake and I said, hey, is it lame to wear a bright maroon wetsuit? And Jake said, if you were even a little bit worse, it would be kooky, but I guess you could pull it off. Sounds to me like Jake was being nice, by the way.
Yeah.
This came in from David, no last name, please, is what he stated. So give him some advice. Tools to live by.
Tools to live by vis-a-vis the colored wetsuit. I think if you want to draw attention to yourself, wear a colored wetsuit. If you're in the lineup thinking, hey, I'm pretty good. Look at me. Look at me. Have at your colored wetsuit. If you are under 15, by all means, express yourself. If you are not one of those two categories, stick with black.
Would you wear any color on a wetsuit?
So I did. Billabong, I got to design my own wetsuit a couple years ago. And I thought, I'm going to design the ugliest thing ever just for fun. It was olive green, like army green body. One arm was fluorescent orange. The other arm was fluorescent yellow. And I actually kind of liked it.
Did you?
Yeah.
I think ultimately that's what you're talking about. Do you want to stand out? You want people to look at you? That's ultimately what this comes down to, is if you're that good of a surfer, people are already looking, and then, then it is performative to a certain degree because there's cameras and that sort of stuff. So that's what the white wetsuit's about, or Jamie O'Brien's is about.
The white wetsuit is, I mean, if I can set up some parameters, white wetsuit is hideous. Nobody should ever, like Kalohe and Kelly both look dumb in their white wetsuits, I always thought.
Stephanie Gilmore.
I mean,
she's the only other person I could think of who's pulled it off. Sure,
you could pull it off, I think, as a very stylish woman. Then that is you can have that. But otherwise, don't wear wet, and don't wear white, and don't wear fully garish like Jamie O'Brien. I mean, mine was garish, like the one arm and everything, but it actually kind of worked conceptually, accidentally. It wasn't like Jamie O'Brien's fluorescent camo. Don't do that either. Like, stay within, like, his maroon wetsuit, I'm sure was fine, right? It's a version, it's like a normal color, darker, etc. You're all good.
I ordered a couple of Buell wetsuits like 10 years ago. No, probably more than 10 years ago. Because I saw Punker Pat wearing one when I think he was on Ruka at the time, maybe, and Ruka was getting wetsuits from Buell, but they always had really interesting panels of interesting colors. So it was like the underarm panel was like dark purple. And when it was wet, it almost looked black. It just looked slightly different, and you're like, what is that? And so having to kind of be subtle but different, I thought that was rad. So I called Buell and I got a couple of those, like a 4-3 and a 3-2 in the same color. And I thought that was cool at the time, but I've only worn black ever since.
I mean, like, again, tools to live by here. If you are, let's just assume you are, listener, you are over 23 and you surf well enough. Wear black and or just like David Lee talked about. If you want flair, subtle flair. Leave fluorescence to the kids and or Jamie O'Brien. Leave white to Stephanie Gilmore.
You know what? Another thought with that Buell wetsuit I thought was really cool when they showed up is some of the logos were printed on the inside, like a surprising, like monster logo, like on the inside, just as a like a novelty type thing, or like those XL wetsuits that have the infrared on the inside. So the outside actually looks kind of conservative and sleek. And then you peel it open and there's surprise artwork in there for you. I mean, maybe somebody in the parking lot might catch a glimpse of it just for a second, but it's really just for you.
Brilliant.
I know. I like that. That's the hip move.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. All right, cool. Well, there's tools to live by, brought to you by the ultimate tool that you can own. VaerWatches.com, VAER watches.com, surf 15, no space, is the promo code for 15% off. All right, Chaz. We've got some more listener line calls. How are you doing on time?
I'm good.
You're good on time. Okay, let me look. Oh, let's go Survival League, actually. Portugal is potentially going to run this weekend. Looks like really good surf potentially too.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at the forecast that I realized is a third story that I haven't written that I need to write, that Surfline is really must be frustrated with the World Surf League, because gone, and or they maybe listen to advice of, hey, don't overhype these things. Like when you overhype them and the swell doesn't materialize, that is bad on you. It's not bad on the World Surf League. It is bad on you, Surfline, to say this is epic when it's very clearly not epic. So this year, like they've been depressing like hype on all the swells. Like remember that Great Day of Sunset was like not really called, and pipe wasn't like epic pipe on the way. And with this Portugal event too, it's like been a real maybe the winds are going to be bad. We don't know.
Well, it was properly pumping last week, so I think that everything's going to look pale in comparison to last week, but it still could be head high and barreling over the course of the weekend. So hopefully we get that. I am officially out of Survival League, but I committed to my picks before the season even began. So if I were still in it, I would have Idolo on my roster for this event. Who do you got?
I think, did I put Idolo? I think I did put Idolo for this event as well. It's either Idolo or Gabe. I can't remember what. I think I settled on Idolo.
So yeah, either one would be a good safe pick, I would think. Other than the fact that I just jinxed Idolo, but the question would just come down to who do you want to use throughout the rest of the season, and Gabe is more applicable throughout the rest of the season, so Idolo would be the right pick for you.
It's true, but this is where I'm not even thinking about it this year. I made mistakes in years past by you always hear the NFL coaches or basketball coaches or whatever, like one game at a time, man. Hey, we're not looking down. I am picking the best surfer, full stop, without even really considering conditions or whatever. Like I picked Jack for pipe. I picked John for sunset. It's either Idolo or Gabe. I'm just going to start chewing them down, and I will cross the bridge of, I picked everybody good. If I'm still in it, if I have the luxury of having the problem of, having to pick a wild cardish kind of pick at the end of the season because I'm still in it, then I'll feel good.
At that point, pick Joao Chianca.
Yeah, Joao Chianca, exactly, because you have the Joaos, you have those ones, and I can also assess who's got when you pick the best at the start, I'm going to pick stinking, of course, Jordy for J-Bay if I'm still in, right? Like where, like I have those ones, but like there's surfers.
Pick the world champs while you can.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to save those listener line calls for next week, but I am going to give you one true grit or clickbait crap article that you yourself wrote. You tell me, what is it? Quote, revamped Surfer Magazine debuts exciting trending news writer who resides in small town nestled at foot of Smoky Mountains in East Tennessee. Quote, Emily enjoys strong coffee, spicy food, and live music, exclamation point, end quote.
I mean, this is straight up amazing. Have you seen it? I've read three of her articles today. It is brilliant. It is such, there was debate if she was real. Gen C found her email, so I'm going to be emailing her, Emily Morgan, for an interview. But she knows nothing about surfing, is not a surfer, lives in Tennessee. And her hot takes on stuff or whatever, it's like, she writes in the real BuzzFeedy kind of, we think this is great, but she has no idea what she's even beginning to write about. So today's two stories were that she wrote, a wave thing is opening up, tank is opening up in Arizona, I guess, and her like kind of weird off angle at that. And then also she's like basically finding TikToks and then writing stories about them.
Wow. And
so Hunter Jones, then she found one of him surfing, I suppose, somewhere in San Francisco. And so the story was, when you think of San Francisco, you don't think of surfing, maybe it's skateboarding or something like that. It was just like, you're epic. You are epic. But yeah, she
has no clue.
Bot worthy good.
Crazy. Yeah. But it makes sense because it's like, that's who their audience is. Their audience doesn't know anything about surfing. They do watch TikTok, Yeah.
Surfer has just pivoted straight. It's now just it's like a BuzzFeed click. They have enough legacy where they will get pushed up the algorithm, right? Surfer Magazine. And so those stories, no doubt, will get put on Apple News and that kind of thing. And so you'll just get random clicks based on, nothing based on the content, nothing based on any of it. And so it's just, I mean, like, yeah, does it make you sad, David Lee Scales, if there was this once iconic thing started, the history that Surfer has, from John Severson to Drew Campion to, like these, to Matt George, to this legacy that it has now being a zombie, basically, where it's generating clicks written from Tennessee. Does that make you sad, or do you just think, yeah, that's the world we live in, man?
The concept makes me sad, but I've had a slow, long breakup with Surfer magazine to where it's expected at this point. This is, the wife who cheated on you, and then you get over it, and then 8 or 10 years down the road, you find out she's making more bad decisions in her life. You're not like, no, I'm shocked that she's dating that crystal meth user. No, like, there's no shock anymore. It's like, yeah, exactly. That's what she was going to do. Of course, that's a path she was on.
The crazy part about it is, if it's true that Surfer, part of the package that it was bought for was $25 million, it's really, really hard for me, being in this business, to understand how that price tag is at all justified. Like, I see what they're doing, right? They're gonna generate clicks. They're gonna get partners with like full kook people who don't understand. But at some point, the idea of surfing, and of course they didn't buy Surfer for 25 mil. It was Surfer, Skateboarder, da, da, da. So they're doing this with all of these titles, right? And then I suppose you try to wrap Ford in, and big, sponsor or whatever, advertisers and all that, and maybe it works. I don't see how these niche things. Yeah, I don't see it, but I'm no businessman.
I think about Emily though, and her job, like, she is a professional. And so the comparison, let's say I'm a professional podcaster. If somebody reached out to me and was like, hey, you're doing good at podcasting, we want you to talk about digital video recorders on a podcast. And so we'll hire you, we'll pay you. Do you mind doing some research and then talking about digital video recorders? I'd be like, I know nothing about that, and I have no interest in talking about it. Like, I mean, I guess if you're going to give me enough money, I'll do the research and figure it out. But like, I'm the wrong guy for the job. Why are you reaching out to me? You know what I mean?
I mean, I assume that Emily Morgan wants to go on and work for BuzzFeed or whatever, right?
Yeah,
she wants, and so this will be she'll be, whatever her title is. It's like breaking news writer or something.
Yeah.
Trending news writer at Surfer magazine. So this is a line on her resume, which good for her. But I would hate to do that kind of writing full stop, where it's,
totally.
You're just like, nothing about it, you ostensibly care nothing about it.
No.
It's your job, and so you do it, and then I guess, Well,
my prediction, World Surf League hires her in 3 months.
Well, I mean, this is the funny thing, is that it is all Emily Morgan. I was thinking about this actually specifically today, thinking she makes the inertia look good, because as kooky as the inertia is, the inertia people still surf and or partake in what they're writing about. They're not getting somebody who has no idea, right?
Yeah.
And you could disagree with, like, I can poke fun at their big tent, and they have, Val's and Sam George and whoever, right, for the inertia, but everyone there surfs, right? They're not getting, or whatever, like buying.
Surfs, but
surfs,
in quotes.
Yeah, they're not living in Tennessee.
Right.
That's not just, but exactly like you said, this is exactly a WSL thing. This is a business pivot for Surfer, which that's all WSL is doing too, is business pivots. And so I would not be surprised if she generated enough where, hey, Emily Morgan, come, we've got a spot for you. You've got the tone down. It's exactly, Surfer is exact, and the WSL are on same team.
Totally. That's kind of the point. And it's, the real scary part is probably generating the most eyeballs and clicks and views in the surf space as well.
For sure.
You know what I mean?
For sure.
So yeah, it is sad, but yeah, if Emily does her job well, it's because she is tapping into that TikTok culture and TikTok algorithm that you and I can't be bothered to pay attention to, but it really has numbers attached to it.
For sure. For
numbers
sure.
and eyeballs.
I'm sure it's working.
So anyways, okay, well, let's go to commercial break so that people can learn about linkedin.com/surf. And then we'll come back with a quick Netflix review and then barrel or nah.
Let's do it.
All right, Chaz, we are back from break.
Do you think Emily Morgan got her job at Surfer Magazine through LinkedIn.com?
Yes, I do. In fact, I do, because where else would she go? I mean, it is so robust in terms of what they do and who they offer it to and the way they plug you in with different opportunities, that why wouldn't you go through linkedin.com/surf?
The only place.
Boom. Good job, Emily. One thing I wanted to ask you about Netflix. Did you watch the Chris Rock stand-up special?
I read enough about it to feel like I don't need to watch it. Should I watch it? Is there going to be anything more surprising and or funny than just the going after Will and Jada at the end?
You don't need to watch it.
Was it not very funny?
Dude, it was not funny. So I didn't read anything. I'm not sure what the reviews, I want to hear what the reviews said that you read. It was not funny at all.
I mean, it's the feeling I was getting from reading the reviews was that it was not funny, because nobody was harshing on it really, right? None of the reviewers, they just really got to the meaty bit at the end right away. Of course, that's what was going to lead talking about clicks, right? The slap still is what the story is going to be. And it seemed like Chris, spoke whatever he thought about it in a not particularly insightful nor interesting nor funny way, which I'm thinking, you sat on this thing for a year.
I know.
And this is the best you could do, was say like, Jada cheated on him and he looked like a bitch and then he slapped me.
It honestly, I think less of Chris at this point. I loved Chris Rock. His specials from like mid 2000s, like, I don't know, 2005 or 8 or whatever it was, were like so insanely good, only to be outdone by Dave Chappelle a few years back. You know what I mean? But like, Dave is in a class all his own. Chris Rock is in another class all his own, down below Dave. But then there's kind of a chasm between anybody else. Like, they were insane. And this fell so unbelievably short. I was so looking forward to it for those reasons, that I loved him in the past, but also because of the slap. Like, okay, he's gonna like, and there's so much substance there to discuss. Like, there are themes to discuss that slap is related to, like about how our society operates, or like even like black on black violence is an angle, like maybe he could have said like, I wouldn't hit him back because I don't want to perpetuate this stereotype. These are two minorities in tuxedos in this environment that we weren't allowed to be in. I'm not going to hit him back. That anything like that would be interesting. That would be poignant. Like, he said nothing interesting, nothing poignant at all. First of all, didn't make a joke anywhere leading up to that, then got to that, and he was kind of angry about Will, and you could see his anger. He was seething. He actually fumbled over a joke. Like, he said the wrong movie name in the joke that he was trying to deliver. The joke wasn't even funny anyways. And so like, I was glad to hear him say what he said about Will Smith. Like, he called a spade a spade. He's like,
sure,
basically F that guy. By the way, his wife was having sex with their child's friend. So that is who he should be mad at. That is where all of this started. So him kind of stating it matter-of-factly, I appreciated, because we hear lots of rumor, innuendo. I don't pay close enough attention to know what's fact, what's not. But for him to just kind of lay it all out there for somebody like me, I was like, sweet, call it it like it is. But there was no joke, and there was nothing poignant. There was nothing beyond just that. And then throws the mic down at the end because he was livid still.
And I mean, that's the thing. Like, if you're gonna sit on it that long, you better bring it. And if you don't have it, then just don't say anything, or you'd be looking angry. And the punchline at the end that I read was that my mama taught me not to fight in front of white people or something.
That's not even a funny joke.
No, it's like, okay, like definitely not a mic drop ender.
No, like, he said that, and I like I said, like, the narrative that I painted would have been a more kind of poignant thing to end on, and you can make a joke somewhere in there that is about fighting in front of white people that would have made it more compelling. Like, it was really disappointing, because I love Chris and I wanted to see him hit a home run.
I wonder if part of the problem is that Dave Chappelle crushes sort of that moral comedy
Maybe.
so well, like can make it both hilarious but also very, very insightful, I think. Or and that was never like Chris looked good before Chappelle, and Chris was funny in a different way.
Yeah.
But that's what that comedy, that's what that situation needed, was an insightful
Totally.
probe into culture and morals and expectations and all this stuff that Dave does well and Chris doesn't do well.
And it was so ripe for the picking. Like there's so much in that slap that you could culturally comment on and morally comment on. Like he's never had better raw material to work with.
I mean, I wonder if that's it though. Sometimes I feel that, not that I'm anywhere near an artist on the level of anything, but sometimes when a story is so good, it's way harder than dredging for nothing. And, you know, because like you get overwrought, right? You think this is so good and I've got to make it so good. And then you just strangle yourself.
Well, he's a professional at the top. Like he should have figured it out. I was shocked by how mediocre it was.
I mean, even a freestyle, even if he would have sat up on stage and talked about it the entire time for an hour and a half, but just really riffed on it. Just like let his own mind process it. I mean, that's what he should have done straight away out. He should have let the whatever settle for a couple days, but he should have done the comedy like months and months and months ago.
The other thing that I had a problem with it is it was objectively racist.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm not offended, you know, like it was objectively racist against white people is what I'm saying. And I'm not personally offended by it, but I was objectively aware that it was, you know what I mean? And I'm kind of taking a survey going, how do you not see the hypocrisy in kind of using this to comment about race, but so clearly disparaging this giant group of people? And like when Dave Chappelle makes a white joke, he follows it up with a trans joke, follows it up with an Asian joke, follows it up with a black joke, you know, so he's like an equal opportunity offender.
It's like Dave Chappelle's like South Park-ish, where
totally. Yeah. This was like Chris Rock going hard in the paint, anti-white, and not just making a joke about white people. It was very clearly feeling negatively about white people. And part of one kind of a large ongoing joke that he was having was about the Capitol riots. And the quote joke that he was trying to make was like, white people are afraid that we're stealing their country. We meaning black people. And he goes, we ain't stealing their country. Other white people are stealing their country. They should be afraid about the white man taking the white man's country, you know? And like, that's the thing. And I'm thinking, well, you're misunderstanding the entire, he's like, there was no black people at the Capitol riots. And I'm like, yeah, Chris, that's the point, is it has nothing to do with race. Like you thinking that had to do with race is so racist. Like, no, not all white people share the same ideology. That wasn't a racial thing in any way, shape, or form. The entire premise of this joke that white people are dumb because we're stealing it from white people is so racist. You know what I mean? Like, again, I'm not offended by it. I don't care, but it's objectively racist, and that's weird.
But those, I mean, in those two though, the fact that he was mining comedy from things that happened a year ago, where I've heard already way funnier things about Jan 6, right? And there's like Chris Rock's comedy on saying funny things about Jan 6, you know, a year plus later. I mean, sure, there's still funny things to be said about it, but I mean, come on, man, like that's old material.
It was bizarre.
Yeah,
it was bizarre, and like we turned it off at the end. We're like, oh, we didn't laugh once.
Yeah. Well,
like, what the heck, man?
Thanks for taking the time.
I wish somebody would have just told me where the Will Smith part was, so I could just scrub to that and watch that part. All right, well, let's do back to surfing. Let's do barrel or nah.
Let's do it.
Hey, David and Chaz. I heard Chaz talk in the past about how non-surfing surf fans do not exist. I live in Montreal and have never lived near the ocean. I haven't surfed a single time in my life. Over the past few years, I've somehow become interested in surfing and enjoy reading Beach Grit, listening to the podcast, and watching some of the surf contests. The only thing that has stopped me from surfing itself is geography. So, barrel or not, being a non-surfing surf fan.
Total barrel. Like, I mean, I don't think they don't do, I mean, maybe I've said it before on the podcast, they do not exist. I probably have said that. I mean, my trip across America, Heartland to Tennessee, if I would have known that Emily Morgan was there, I would have gone a little further. But yeah, like I think it's great. I mean, if you like it as a sport, I was in Canada, of course, where there's all kinds of Montreal, where there's all kinds of crazy sports. I was fascinated by curling, of course. You know, it's like in Canada, curling is, you see it here in America every 4 years during the Winter Olympics, and it's sort of, I think, always viewed ironically, right? Like, where in Canada it's serious, right? It is like a serious thing that's on TV at the prime hours of, and you know, I'm sitting in the airport watching curling. I don't curl, never curled. I think watching something that you don't participate in is full barrel always.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. The vast majority of things that I watch sport related, I do not do, you know?
Yeah.
So I think it's totally barrel, and I'm heartened to hear it.
For sure. And if you, again, I think you're somebody, a non-surfing surf fan, their perspective is even more unique because they're watching it purely as entertainment, right?
Yeah.
Where so it should be entertaining. Who surfs the best to you? Who do you think is the most entertaining? That's why I was looking for the non-surfing surf fan, is because their opinion or their viewpoint to me is more interesting than the surfing surf fan, because I already kind of know, tell me where you surf and how old you are, and I could pretty much tell you what you think.
That's why Emily Morgan is doing what she's doing.
The Lord's work.
Totally. All right. Barrel or nah, driving while watching CT events on your phone.
So barrel, big barrel. Best part about surfing is you don't really have to watch that much, right? Like I'll do, so if I happen to be on a road trip, and if there happens to be a CT event on, I will jump up and down for joy in the parking lot, because I'll set the phone somewhere, right, where it balances, play it, drive, the smooth sounds of Joe Chappelle, whoever's talking, like you'll get the feeling of the whole thing. Actually, though, I'll say this is a real problem with pro surfing, is I will get bored and turn it off, or turn on music, or turn anything else on, radio, after so long. But I do enjoy the time that I do it. So
this is a full barrel for me to do, but not for our listeners to do, because I don't trust that they're not going to crash their cars. But I can do it. I can do it flawlessly.
I'm going to say, though, here's the secret. There's nothing, not nothing. There has been maybe 2 things that have ever happened in the history of professional surfing in a contest that would have been like, what? Crash your car. Everything you kind of glance over and see what's happened and say, oh, that's cool. Oh, Philippe did alley-oop. Sweet. Oh, you know, he got barreled pretty good.
Well, if you're in LA or anywhere near and you're in stop and go traffic, 28 minutes of that 30-minute heat are people just sitting in the water waiting for waves. And in those 2 minutes, there are actually 10-second increments where you need to be looking down at your phone. So if you're in stop and go traffic on the freeway, there's no, you know, you could see the car in front of you. If your phone is propped up right here, you could see the car in front of you, even while you're looking at your phone for those 10 seconds to watch the ride from beginning to end.
And I mean, the best part of it too is guaranteed, you can guarantee that the World Surf League will miss a good half of the rides in real time.
By going to commercial.
Yeah, so they're cutting to commercials. So you're only really watching replays anyway. Like it's not like it's not like you're going to miss this moment in real time. You're not.
Yeah.
They missed it already for you. You're just waiting for the replay.
The funny thing is, you're right about you losing interest after a while, because I will literally I've made the assessment many, many times. I'm about to get in the car and I look at what heats are coming up next. I assess the conditions, all of it. And I would say 7 times out of 10, I choose to listen to a podcast or music instead of watch the event. If it happens to be firing surf and a heat that I really want to see, then I'll choose the CT.
I do say that I jump up and down in the driveway before heading out. And I do until I turn it on and see Zeke Lau versus whoever.
Yeah.
And then I'll sit through that one and then, okay, who's coming up next? And I'll see it is whoever versus whoever. And I'll be like, and then I'll look down the heat draw and see one coming up like 12 heats later that's interesting and say, nah, that's enough for me.
Exactly. All right. Well, we got to the bottom of that. Final one is a very important one, maybe the most important one that we've done in years. Barrel or nah, calling your in-laws mom or dad.
This one is Great. Who sent this? Did you come up with this one?
Came up with it all on my own.
This one is maybe when you were leading off with best we've had in years, I was saying we've had a lot, David Lee Scales. Don't go there. I will add this may be the best one we've ever had.
Everybody can relate to this. It's really a conundrum. And when you hear people do it, you're like, I don't know how I feel about that. So we need to get to the bottom of it.
100% no barrel, David Lee Scales, which leaves you in a worse spot because what do you call them, right? So I am absolutely, anytime I've ever heard anyone do it, it sounds cloying, it sounds artificial, it sounds like immature, it sounds juvenile. You're an adult person. This person was not your mother or your father. They are your mother-in-law or father. They didn't raise you. And so for me, it is an absolute no barrel. Where I've settled, which is thankfully, it's almost worth having kids for, is you call your in-laws what your child calls them. So I call her my mother-in-law. I either call her Nana B or Nana Nancy. I call him Crawdaddy or Grandpa Alan. That's what I call them full time.
That's a good solution. So I'm lucky and grateful enough to have loving and supporting parents that are distinct from every other human being on the planet. So they get reserved with those monikers, mom and dad. I have a stepmom that I've known my entire life, also unconditionally loving. I don't even call her mom. You know what I mean? Because I have a mom.
Yeah.
Now I say this because there may be a caveat to all of these conversations, which is,
there's not.
What if somebody doesn't have a loving parent, or what if their mom died?
It doesn't matter.
And the in-law is, so yes, they are adults, but what if they are adults with childlike craving for replacing that role, and the in-law actually delivers on the goods? The in-law is that great of a mother-in-law. Can't they comfortably call them mother?
I love it. No, you cannot. And take care of the mother and or father hole in your heart the same way that Kalohe Andino takes care of the trophy-sized hole in his. Figure out some other way to deal with it. You don't call them mother or father.
It feels cringy every time I hear it.
I mean, it's never once worked. It's
Every
never
time
once
I hear it.
history of the world has worked. So if you have kids, that's my recommendation. You go on what your kid calls them. If you don't, you're in a little bit of a pickle, but just go straight, you call them by their first name.
And the other thing is, it always sounds cringy when I hear the person say it. And I would argue a lot of the time, the receiver feels uncomfortable being called it as well.
I mean, I can only speak as a stepfather. I'm a stepfather as well. If my wonderful, awesome stepdaughter called me dad, I would think, not because I don't love her, but I am not your dad. You can call me stepdad.
Yeah.
Hey, stepdad. That's cool. But I am not your dad. You have
what about kissing your in-laws on the lips?
That's okay.
You're going to get a bunch of flack from people who totally call their in-laws mother and father, and they're just be like, you guys are so stupid and immature.
I defy somebody. I'm like, this is my hill to die on right here.
I agree. I've felt strongly about this forever, and I've never discussed it with anybody.
Yeah, I'm glad that we came out on the same side. Because if you were no, man, it's like Lauren's mom is mom, I would think, oh, David Lee Scales, you watching your Hallmark movies, drinking hot cocoa and whatnot. That's just,
I know it feels so. It feels like that person is better. They're unconditionally loving, right? They're just they've got enough love to share with everybody. But to me, my argument is no, it means love doesn't have as much value if they're just giving it away for free, because like I said, there's 2 people on the planet that title is reserved for, and that's meaningful. Don't dilute the meaning.
It makes me feel inside, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, fine film. When Ferris Bueller's in bed, when his parents are taking his temperature at the start. He's going me to his. That's how it feels to me when I hear somebody call their parents-in-law mom and dad.
Well, just like I had to wait till the end of Chris Rock's special for him to get to the meat and potatoes, we made listeners sit through 2 hours just to get to that.
It's worth it. Worth it, people.
I know. All right. Well, hey, gargantuan show to make up for last week missing, but thanks listeners for sticking around. And thanks, of course, VayerWatches.com. Promo code SURF15. Thank you always to athleticgreens.com/surf. I've got that right here. And then, of course, LinkedIn.com/surf as well.
Real quick, I forgot. Why is Leonardo punching? Who's he punching in the mouth again? John? Why?
Yeah, because he's sponsored by K-Way Technical Jackets.
Okay, good. K-Way. I have to write that one
Go
down.
to his Instagram. He just posted about it.
K-Way Tech. Got it. Okay.
Okay. Good luck. Text me if you need help.
Thanks.
All right. I'll see you next week, Chaz. Hannah will sign us off and then stick around for the Zeke Lau remix by DJ Seaweed.
Bon voyage.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Great. Thank you.